Hi, we're Dave and Jude, and we sold up our home and left our jobs and our lives behind to live on board our sailboat, Anamkara. Since leaving Portsmouth on the south coast of the UK, we've had quite an adventure, visiting wild Atlantic islands, Irish pubs, spotting whales, and watching motorsports. We're embracing life and all that it has to offer. Come with us as we continue to sail north and explore the UK's magnificent coastline all the way up to the Scottish Islands and beyond. We'll be exploring the lochs of Scotland and the Hebridean Islands and discover the wildlife and communities on the way. We have new videos out every Saturday, so make sure you subscribe to avoid missing an episode. Good morning, we're here in Portaferry in Strangford Lough, and today we're going to set sail for Bangor. Feeling a little bit fragile this morning, not even sure what footage we got of it, but we went to Dummigan's bar last night, which is a pub. The front part of the pub only has room for about 5 or 6 people, and then there's like a back room and a pub garden. But we went in there for one. We were told it was a nice pub, and I think we had 10 or thereabouts, and some fish and chips. Yeah, feeling a bit fragile this morning, but I think we'll be fine. The water is looking nice and calm. It's coming up to slack water here in the Narrows. So the current that was along yesterday is vastly reduced. We're hoping there won't be any overfalls out in the entrance. We've been told that it should be fine at this time of tide. And then we just turn north. It's going to be a fairly probably rough passage, because we're going to be fighting the tide for 2 hours. The wind is against the tide when it does turn. And the wind is probably going to be on the nose, so it's not going to be a pleasant day at sea, but it gets us up to where we need to be for the much worse weather that's coming in a couple of days' time. And so we have to do it today, basically, which is fine. It's one of those things about sailing. Sometimes you have to take a hit and get moving just to have a more comfortable time later. There is a temptation to stay in the loch. It's lovely and calm in here, and there's plenty of protected places, but we want to move on. We've got a few things we need to buy, so having a marina with an address is always useful. So we'll probably get some Amazon packages delivered to the marina. And we want to go into Belfast and look. The Titanic Museum is up there. We've been told that the dry dock for the Titanic is a very good sight to see, and see what else we can find in Belfast. So yeah, we'll update you later. Jude is still in bed, feeling a bit fragile, but it should be an easy motor out of the entrance here, and then we'll see what wind we've got, whether we want to sail. I'm tempted today to motor because just a hangover, whether there's good wind or not, but it is a 6-hour passage, so if we can get the sails up, we definitely should, just to save on diesel, and it's more pleasant usually with the sails up. Well, we've left Portaferry now, exited through the Narrows. It was pretty mundane this morning. There was quite a bit of swell in the entrance, but it wasn't overfalls or uncomfortable, it was just swell. Against expectations, we've got the sails up and we're actually sailing, the motor's off. The wind's not too strong right now, we're not too close into it. We are going to turn in a while, which might mean that we're headed directly into the wind. We'll see what happens then. The tide will also turn, which could mean a pretty uncomfortable strong wind on the nose. We've already got 2 reefs in both sails, just because we're going into the breeze, so it's probably 15 to 18 knots of wind right now, but we're going into it at 5 knots, so it's low 20s, mid 20s against the boat, and when we turn and the tide comes along as well, that's going to add 2 or 3 more knots of wind, so quite breezy once that happens, but hopefully we'll be okay and deal with it as we get there. But it's a nice morning for it, less cloudy than we were expecting, and as was forecast, so it's always nice when you can see blue sky. It just lifts the spirits. The other boat that we were tied up to up in the Down Cruising Club, it's just over here somewhere there. They're off to the Isle of Man today, to Peel, where we were a week ago, and we are turning north, so they're having a lovely fairly downwind sail right now, and we're having a fairly upwind sail right now. Very different days, so yeah, both having a lovely day of it, I'm sure. We're now motoring, as you can probably hear. Conditions aren't as bad as I was expecting. The tide hasn't yet turned, so I think it probably is going to kick up a bit once that happens. There's been a lot of tide against us. We were only going 3 knots, and the wind kind of died down a bit, and also we turned directly towards the wind. And as I said earlier, we're both a bit hungover today, so couldn't be bothered with tacking, basically. No way to sugarcoat it. We made a mistake last night, but we had a lovely time out with the guys at the bar. Really friendly place, and yeah, just nice to sit and chat over a few pints. But yeah, we have about 2 hours now until we turn in towards Bangor in Belfast Lough, and it's pretty cold, but it's a nice day. The bit of cloud around, but it's generally quite pleasant, and the sea is currently flat, so we're pretty thankful for that. We're gradually recovering. Jude's managed to have some coffee now. I was much more okay first thing this morning. Had a cup of tea and got moving. As you saw in the earlier video, Jude was nowhere to be seen on deck. She was still in bed, regretting at least the last 4 pints. So yeah, we will update later and see how we go. We're still motoring, just coming up to Copeland Island at the top of the Ards Peninsula, on the outside this time. So we're at Copeland Island. We're going to make our turn into Belfast Lough. There is just some straights below it that we can cut the corner instead of going all the way around the island. And then once we're in Belfast Lough, we're essentially just motoring over to Bangor Marina, where we're going to tie up for the night, probably a few nights, and we'll hopefully go into Belfast and find some interesting things to show you guys. The waves did build up as expected, but not quite as much as I was thinking that they would, so it's a bit rolly and it's a bit rough, and there's lots of water coming up over the bow, but it's kind of manageable. We're still directly into the wind. Hangovers are easing up a bit, and the sun has come out, the clouds have disappeared, so it's a much nicer day than it was. We've had some bacon sandwiches up on deck, so morale is high at the moment. But yeah, it's probably another hour and a half to 2 hours to get into the marina, so not much longer to go, and then I think we're probably both just going to go straight back to bed again and sleep it off, and then work out what our next steps are from there. So we're in Donaghadee Sound now, going between the island and the mainland and cutting through. There is, according to the chart, just over 2 knots of tide going with us. We're not going that fast, so I'm not really sure whether that's true or not. But we're being slowed down by these overfalls just in the entrance. They're quite short, sharp, choppy seas. And we're just pounding into them. We're still doing 6.5, 7 knots most of the time. So it's kind of fine, and it's not dangerous, it's just uncomfortable and sort of a frustrating way to travel, but we're nearly through them by the look of it. It's just a very local effect in between the island and the mainland where the tide is filtering through, and then we should be back out into flatter seas for the last half hour to an hour of our journey, just getting into the marina.
We have now arrived in Bangor. So we did get here yesterday, got onto a pontoon, and then was just knackered after our long day sailing and hangovers. So we didn't really do very much, had a bit of wander into the town, not very far though, had a bit of late lunch, and then just settled into an afternoon on the deck.
Pretty easy entry into Bangor Marina. There's an enormous harbour wall there, quite narrow as you come in, but nothing worrisome. It's just when you first see it, it's like, oh, that looks a bit narrow.
Yeah, there's some weird like circular dock things for big ships in the middle of, or semi in the middle of the channel, slightly over to.
Yeah, and weirdly there's kind of cleats, bollards on top, which they've painted red, even though they are on the starboard side of the channel. So that is confusing because it's the same red that the port markers are, which implies you should go the other side of them, but there's definitely not enough water the other side of them. So beware of that if you ever come here. Nice town though, nice marina. The facilities are the best we've had for a while, including a bathtub for the men and a bathtub for the ladies. So that's very unusual in the UK at least. I think this is the second marina we've seen a bathtub in, but the Plymouth Marina Mayflower, the bathtub wasn't opened anyway, so yeah. Whereas here it seems to be. So yeah.
We're gonna have a wander around Bangor today and a bit of an explore, go see the castle and some castle gardens, and then just have a general wander around the main street, see what shops are around. We'll need to get ready and provision probably quite heavily because we're planning on heading up to Scotland once we leave here. Well, a few stops on the way, but then Scotland, so we'll be fairly remote and won't have access to big shops, probably little shops to top up in various places, but we're not sure our route yet.
And I've ordered some stuff for the boat, some wire and some electrical gubbins, because very rarely we've got an address for a few days, so I've done that. Possible ranting coming about the availability of stuff to Northern Ireland. Amazon don't seem to deliver anything here, even though they're part of the UK. And the number of shops that are just saying no Northern Ireland addresses is very frustrating. And it's not even as if they filter when you're browsing, so you can see all of the things are available, and then you try and order it, and just no delivery to Northern Ireland. It's ridiculous. So there was the rant.
Yeah.
I was planning to do that later, but out it came. And unfortunately, when we go to Scotland, it's a similar story. So there won't be restrictions on goods. From what I've read, Amazon restricts batteries to Northern Ireland. So if you want a GoPro battery, you just can't get one, other than from a shop in the high street for probably 2 or 3 times the money. When we go to Scotland, the main issue is a thing we have in the UK here called Highlands and Islands. Anywhere effectively south of the border in Scotland, so England and Wales, there's no problem, you can just get things delivered. A little bit into Scotland and you're apparently in the Highlands and you're just too far to bother delivering to, so it's not that they charge more, you're just not allowed to get deliveries. So we're going to be remote enough that we won't be able to order anything from the internet soon, whether we've got an address or not, which is frustrating. It's, you know, we call it the United Kingdom. It doesn't feel very united once you get away from England and Wales and into the sticks. So anyway,
Your rant wasn't over.
glad to be here in Bangor, and we're going to explore for a few days, do some shopping, go into the Titanic Museum hopefully.
To Belfast.
In Belfast, which is the major city in Northern Ireland, just like Dublin was in Ireland. And yeah, off for an explore for the day. There's some horrible weather coming in tomorrow, so we're doing it all today in Bangor. Then we'll do Belfast 2 days from now. I don't know what day it is. And tomorrow we're going to have an editing and boat day because it's going to be raining and very, very windy. We took a quick 30-minute train ride into Belfast to explore Northern Ireland's capital city. We got off at the former Harland Wolff shipyard where Titanic was built alongside sister ship Olympic and later the Britannic. The scale of this area is awe-inspiring. With giant cranes and dry docks all around, it's easy to imagine the thousands of workers and roaring noise of the time. The museum tells the story of both the build and the disaster well, and we certainly learned some things we hadn't known before. Chief among these was the route. Although most people know that Titanic sailed from Southampton on her maiden voyage, not all will know that she made 2 other stops, one at Cherbourg in France and Cobb in Southern Ireland. The harbour at Cherbourg is too shallow for Titanic's 10-metre draft, and so she needed a tender to transfer people and luggage here. Nomadic sits in the dry dock outside of the museum and is gradually being restored to reflect how she would have looked at the time. Her long and varied history is detailed inside, including service during both World Wars as a minesweeper and evacuation ship, and later as a bar and restaurant in Paris. Hamilton Graving Dock, where the boat sits, is just as interesting. Here we saw an iron caisson, a kind of boat that floated in and was flooded to seal the dry dock ready for pumping out. The caisson would sit in grooves in the dock walls to form the seal.
While exploring Bangor, we went on the hunt for the castle. This is actually a country house and is the city hall. We walked around the building and then through the arboretum in order to make our way to the gardens. We visited in June, and in this month, as well as exploring the gardens, you are surrounded by sculpture and artwork, which is a very unique experience. This includes selected works from artists across Ireland who are inspired by the garden environment. In the centre of the garden, there is a fountain which has etched around the base a tongue twister. The garden has been split into 4 sections: the kitchen garden, the herb and topiary garden, the swamp garden and the flower garden.